Hello. My knees hurt. I don't know if I'll be staying up this long. But welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole. Today we are going to be talking about da 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 Frederick VIII of Denmark. He was the eldest son of King Christian IX. He was nicknamed the father-in-law of Europe. Um, let me try that one more time. Today we're going to be talking about if I can get my life together, it'd be amazing, right? But tonight, actually, we're going to be talking about Frederick the Eighth of Denmark. He was the eldest son of King Christian IX, who was the father-in-law of Europe. And Frederick was related to royalty throughout Europe. He was an heir apparent to the Danish throne. He served as the crown prince for 42 years during the long reign of his father, and he was largely excluded from influence or political power. And upon his dad's death in 1906, he acceded to the throne at the advanced age of 62. In many which Frederick VIII was a liberal monarch who was more favorable to the new parliamentary that was introduced in 1901 than his father had been, and being a reform-minded and democratically inclined due to his late ascension to the throne. However, um, Frederick's reign would only last 6 years, throughout which he was plagued with ill death. Now, he was married to Louise of Sweden, with whom he had 8 children, and their eldest son succeeded his father Christian IX of Denmark, while their second son Karl ascended from the Norwegian throne as Håkon the Seventh in 1905. Now, da-da-da, let's talk about his early life, right? So, I just realized I don't think I did an intro for this podcast. But if you're new here, hit the like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe. Help a girl out. But Frederick was born June 3rd, 1843, in the Yellow Palace, an 18th century townhouse. Um, and it was immediately adjacent to the Amalienborg Palace complex and the principal residence of the Danish royal family in the district of Frederiksdag in the central Copenhagen. He was the eldest son and child of Prince Christian of Schleswig and Holstein, Sonneberg, Glucksburg, and that's a mouthful to say. Imagine having to say that. Oh, I'm the such and such of this such and such and such and such, right? Oh my goodness, that it would be a mouthful to say, honestly. Um, and Princess Louise of Hesse-Kessenberg and Rumpenheim. Okay, Rumpenheim, I'm gonna admit, kind of sounds really funny. I'm not gonna lie. I actually want to look up this principality, this now. So, anyway, um, his father's family was a cadet branch of the Danish royal family in Oldenburg, which was descended from Christian III, which had ruled as the non-sovereign Duke of Schleswig-Holstein for 8 generations. He was baptized on June 22nd with the names Christian Frederick Wilhelm Karl, and he was known as French Frederick to the family, and he was known as Freddie throughout his life. Now he had younger siblings: Alexandra, William, Dagmar, Thera. Is it Thera or Tyra? Thera, I think, and Baltimore. Well, Baltimore. Baltimore just sounds more fun to say, I'm not gonna lie. But although they were royal blood, the family lived in a comparatively normal life. They did not possess great wealth. However, their father's income from the army commission was about 800 euros per year, and their house was rent free. Um, with rent free grace and favorite property. Occasionally, Hans Christian Andersen was invited to call and tell the children stories before bedtime. In 1853, it was clear that the main line of the Oldenburg dynasty would become extinct with King Frederick VII, who was elderly and childless. Frederick's mom was very close to succession, as she was a niece of a previous Oldenburg king, Christian VIII, through his sister, with the heirs from the house of Hessen Castle. having renounced their claims to a Danish throne in favor of Louise, who in turn relinquished her own claim. His father, was eventually chosen the heir presumptive. Accordingly, Frederick was created Prince of Denmark. Now, on October 19th, 1860, he was confirmed with his sister, together with his sister, Princess Alexandra, in the chapel of Christiansborg Palace. Palace. What was I? Okay. Okay. And after his confirmation, he was given extensive military education, pursuing a career in the Royal Danish Navy alongside his brother Baltimore in 1863. And he was sent to study political science at the University of Oxford, but returned to Denmark upon his father becoming king in November that year. As heir apparent to the throne, he was given a seat on state council and and he also assisted his father in duties in the government. In 1864, he formally took place in the Second Schleswig War against Prussia and Austria, and the Crown Prince was a member of the Danish Order of the Freemasons, serving as its guard mason from 1871 until his death. So, he will go on to marry Queen Louise. Um, let's try that one more time. Queen Louise um, wanted him to marry as well, and he had two daughters. Um, wanted him to look. Okay, I'm gonna try that one more time because nothing seems to be coming out. Queen Louise wanted her eldest son to marry as well as her two daughters, Alexandra and Dagmar. Now, Queen Victoria of the UK had two unmarried daughters, Princess Helena and Princess Louise, and Queen Louise planned to have Frederick marry out one of them. Now, during his stay in England, Crown Prince Frederick actually took an interest in Princess Helena. Although his feelings were reciprocated, the connection did not materialize, as Queen Victoria opposed it, and Victoria did not want her daughters to marry heirs to foreign thrones, as it would force them to live abroad, and instead preferring German princes who could establish strong homes in England. In addition, Victoria had always been pro-German, and another Danish alliance was Frederick's sister Alexandra had married Victoria's eldest son Edward, Prince of Wales. Now, and that would not have been in line with her German interest. So, after the failed marriage attempt, attempting to turn instead Princess Louise of Sweden and Norway, the only daughter of King Charles the I don't forget what that Roman numerals was. Give me 1 second, y'all. Why are Roman numerals so complicated? Roman numerals, why did it have to be so complicated? Okay, so that's so real of me, guys. But anyway, the only daughter of King Charles the 15th of Sweden and Norway, Princess Louise belonged to the Bernadotte dynasty, which had ruled Sweden since 1818, when the founder John Baptiste Bernadotte, one of Napoleon Bonaparte's generals, was elected Crown Prince of Sweden in 1810. And he later succeeded as the throne as King Charles XVI. John in 1818, he married Desiree Clary, who had once been engaged to the French Emperor Charles XVI's son Oscar I, who had married Josephine of Lichtenberg and the granddaughter of Napoleon's first wife, the Empress Josephine. Now, Oscar and Queen Josephine were Princess Louise's paternal grandparents, and the marriage was suggested as a way of creating a friendship between Denmark and Sweden. And relations between the two countries have been tense after Sweden had not assisted Denmark during the war with Prussia in 1864. Now, Frederick and Louise had met for the first time in 1862. But in 1868, Frederick was invited to Sweden to get to know Louise, and their meeting was described as a success. In July 1868, Frederick, then 25, became engaged to 17-year-old Princess Louise. Now, a year later, they were married in the chapel of the Royal Palace in Stockholm on July 28, 1869. Louise was the first Swedish princess to marry into a Danish royal house since the Middle Ages, and the marriage had been welcomed in all three Scandinavian countries as a symbol of new Scandinavianism. Now, on August 10th, 1869, the newlyweds made their entrance into Copenhagen, where they received a warm welcome. As their residence, the couple was awarded Frederick VIII's palace, an 18th century palace which forms part of the Amalienborg Palace complex central Copenhagen. As their country residence, they received Charlottenland Palace, located on the shores of Brusum Strait, about 10 kilometers north of Copenhagen. Here they had a refuge far away from the court life, and had several of their children were born here. Frederick and Louise have four sons and four daughters born between 1870 and 1890. Prince Christian, Prince Karl, Princess Louise, Prince Harold, Prince Ingeborg, Princess Thyra, Princess Gustav, and Princess Dagmar. Now their eldest sons Christian and Karl will become kings of Denmark and Norway respectively. Due to their many children, Charlotten's palace was rebuilt to accommodate a large family in 1880 to 1881. The palace was expanded with a dome with two side wings. Uh, Now, well, Frederick was the crown prince for 43 years, and he used this time to prepare carefully for his reign. Even though he, as heir apparent to the throne, had a seat on the Council of State, his father made sure to largely exclude him from his influence and political power. Now let's talk about his reign. Um, the nine sovereigns at Windsor for the funeral of King Edward VII. We're gonna pretend I didn't say that. But anyway, on January 1906, King Christian IX died peacefully at the age of 87. After a reign of 43 years, upon his father's death, Frederick was succeeded to the throne at the age of 62. He was proclaimed king from the balcony of the palace by the Prime Minister John Christian Christianstein as Frederick VIII. Due to his late accession to the throne, his reign would last only 6 years, throughout which he had been plagued with ill health. In many ways, he was a liberal monarch who was much favorable to the parliamentarian system than his father had been, being reform minded and democratically inclined. Let's talk about his death now. On May 14, 1912, while on his journey, returning from a journey on a trip to Nice with his wife and four of his children, the king made a short stop in Hamburg, staying at the Hotel Hamburger Hof under the pseudonym Count Kronberg. That evening, Frederick, while incognito, went out for a stroll, and during which he became faint and collapsed on a park bench. Now he was discovered by a police officer who took him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. His cause of death was announced as a heart attack, and as Frederick was incognito at the time, there was no papers on him. His body was brought to a local morgue where they identified him. He was identified by the hotel manager the next morning. Rumors began to circulate about a possible scandal involving the king. As the place where he collapsed and died was a well-known brothel, the local police did not disclose details about the investigation for fear of causing distress to the royal family. Um, Now his body was transported by a special train and after which he was brought back to Denmark on a royal yacht. And after lying in the state chapel of the Palace of Copenhagen, he was interred at Christian Knight's chapel at Rolksides Cathedral on the island of Zealand. Now, the tradition burial site for the Danish monarch since the 15th century. Let's talk about his descendants now. Um, the reigning families of Denmark, Norway, Belgium, and Luxembourg, are descended from King Frederick VIII. Um, Denmark through his eldest son, Christian IX, and Norway through his second son, Harold, no, Christian the 10th, my bad, and and in Norway through his son, Haakon the Seventh, as well as his daughter, Princess Ingberg of Denmark. The royal family of Belgium and the Grand Ducal family of Luxembourg are also both descended from Princess Ingberg of Denmark. Now, during his reign, the king's full styles. But yeah, but that is it for this episode. You can join me next time as we talk about George the First of Greece. Y'all have a great day.